France's influence within the European Union appears to be much more significant than the role enjoyed by other EU member states, a trade expert has suggested. Earlier this month, French President Emmanuel Macron said that France was paying particularly close attention to the Brexit negotiations. Mr. Macron said, "France will not accept a Brexit deal that does not respect our long-term interests." His position was reinforced by his aide Clement Beaune last week, who warned that Paris will veto a bad post-Brexit trade deal. Mr. Beaune said, "I want to tell our fishermen, our producers, the citizens who are listening that we will not accept a deal with bad terms. If a good agreement cannot be reached, we will oppose it. Each country has a veto right." According to senior political sources, because Mr. Macron is facing domestic threats to his re-election, he would rather see the talks fail than agree to a deal that could tempt other EU states to leave the bloc. Europe's power to protect itself from major global rivals, pandemics, economic crises, migration and climate change will be a major electoral argument for Mr. Macron as he gears up for his 2022 re-election bid, most likely against National Rally leader Marine Le Pen, who he defeated in 2017. A source said, "France's stance is to show that Brexit cannot be a success. From that point of view, the prospect of no deal is not necessarily a problem." Mr. Macron's position is not unexpected or particularly controversial, though, as Paris has more than once tried and succeeded to influence EU rules in order to suit its own interests. For example, in 2011, the European Commission was forced to abandon its plans to allow European winemakers to make cheap rosé wine by mixing red and white wines together, after France put its foot down. The EU's chief Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier, who at the time was Agriculture Minister, hailed the decision as a victory for his own efforts to convince the Commission to defend our culinary way of life. Moreover, in an exclusive interview with Express, Alan Winters, director of the Trade Policy Observatory at the University of Sussex, shed light on France's long record of stubbornly refusing to compromise in trade talks. He said, "Many trade agreements over the last 30 years have had the splits we are seeing now. And they had to be settled through internal politics. It has almost always been France saying, 'We don't like this, we want to veto it.' They resolved them in different ways. For example, the swapping of senior jobs was involved. But in other cases, Professor Winters noted, the French were so stubborn, such as in 1994 with audio-visual services, that Brussels had to cave in." The trade expert added, "The EU never negotiates audiovisual services because the French don't allow it and the EU has to exclude that. Basically, Paris wasn't prepared to have Hollywood undermine French culture."